What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So I didn't think it was possible, but the Cyberpunk 2077 CD Projekt Red situation has actually gotten worse since they put out an official statement for the public. Everyone started going through it and didn't go over so well for CD Projekt Red. Now we have places like OpenCritic putting a disclaimer on the reviews that are currently out, even retailers warning customers about the Xbox One version, and refunds are being asked for all over the place. Some denied, some not. Again, it's a mess. We'll talk about that here today. Also, it does look like Nintendo has at least one more event for us for 2020 today with Indie World. We'll go over what could be there, and I can't believe it, but Stadia, it's actually back in the news. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit the like button, helps out a ton. And if you're brand new here, hit the red subscribe button down below. And we're going to start today with Metroid Prime 4. That's right, we have some news on Metroid Prime 4. If we go over to this tweet here, we can see it says, "We are looking for a boss/AI designer to join us on our journey to develop Metroid Prime 4. That's posted by Retro Studios. This was yesterday. Blew up on Twitter, by the way. It seems to be whenever, I guess, just they try to hire for it or any mention, it blows up on Twitter. People are very excited for Metroid Prime 4, really just to see the direction they're going in and what Retro Studios can do with Metroid Prime 4 on the Switch. But there we go, we have confirmation. It appears there will be bosses in Metroid Prime 4 and even AI. Yeah, look, this doesn't unfortunately tell us much about the development of Metroid Prime 4, even where they are. I would like to think that since we heard that it was being rebooted with Retro in mind now instead of internally at Nintendo, and we heard about Bandai being involved kind of through rumors, we'd like to think that after 2 years, maybe they could have something for us to show in 2021. Remember, it was right at the beginning of 2019 that they announced that this was being restarted with Retro, and it wouldn't have restarted right then. They probably would have done it like a few months before and then given us the news to start off 2019 then. So here's hoping 2021, maybe we get some kind of cinematic trailer just to give us an idea as to where the series is going to be going. Oh, and yesterday we talked about the report that EA was going to come in and actually outbid Take-Two for Codemasters, and it looks like that is happening. Take-Two, I believe, can still respond, but it appears that everything's been accepted, so I would assume that Take-Two said, nah, we're not going to go that far with it. But we can see here, this was reported from The Verge, EA is buying Codemasters for $1.2 billion to take the lead in racing game market. Need for Speed, F1, Grid, Project Cars, and Dirt, all under the same roof. Yeah, and that apparently is going to be closing in the first quarter of next year. Now, the one annoying thing here is this is once again EA coming in and buying the competition, because it would have been better, I think, if Take-Two had picked up Codemasters, because that would have just had more competition in the market. And they do have some IPs in racing, like could use Midnight Club, like I said, but now EA controls more of the overall racing market. What's the competition, I guess, now? They would have Gran Turismo and Forza. Like, that's kind of it. Like, Project Cars isn't separate from them anymore. They own Project Cars then when this closes. So unfortunate there, because the market, it becomes less competitive, but who knows, maybe EA has a plan to continue doing several racing games back to back to back to back, and maybe we just get yearly racing games from EA then. Oh, and here's an odd story. Let me know if this is something you've considered before, because Herman Holst, who's the head of PlayStation Studios, posted a video up online, is on Twitter, and interestingly enough, it shows his PlayStation 5 actually upside down when in the horizontal orientation so that the disc slot is at the top. And afterwards, he pulled it down, the video, and then kind of cropped that part out, but people spotted it, posted up images of it and all this. And I hadn't really thought about that, but I guess if it's horizontal, you would have a hard time seeing the disk drive, the slot, if you're kind of above the system to kind of drop the disk in. I guess that would make some sense there. Or maybe he's having a hard time with it reading and people are saying, you know, it's like the PS1, you got to turn it upside down. It was just odd to see head of PlayStation doing this. Hey, maybe he knows something we don't. I don't know. Maybe we'll try it. We'll turn the PS5 upside down. I don't know. Let me know if that's something you've thought of or even tried at this time. I didn't even think the stand would necessarily work with it upside down, but I guess it does. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. We're starting right away with CD Projekt Red and Cyberpunk 2077. They're under fire right now because of how poorly optimized the Xbox One and the PlayStation 5 are. Borderline unplayable. And we've heard from places like Digital Foundry that it's just outright unacceptable, and review scores are starting to come out more and more. IGN, as an example, gave the Xbox One and the PS4 version of the game on base consoles a 4 out of 10. So the Metacritic scores for these games, when they finally do complete, because codes went out once again basically the day that these systems or the games came out on the system, right, for the PS4 and the Xbox One. So there wasn't a lot of lead up or time to get the review done for a game that is sizable if you start kind of branching off from the main quest line itself. That's surprisingly short, as we're hearing online. But we do have a response from CD Projekt Red in a statement that they posted on Twitter. First of all, we would like to start by apologizing to you for not showing the game on base last-gen consoles before it premiered and, in consequence, not allowing you to make a more informed decision about your purchases. We should have paid more attention to make it play better on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Second, we will fix bugs and crashes and improve the overall experience. The first round of updates has just been released, and the next one is coming within the next 7 days. Expect more, as we will update frequently whenever new improvements are ready. After the holidays, we'll continue working. We'll release 2 large patches, starting with patch number 1 in January. This will be followed by patch number 2 in February. Together, these should fix the most prominent problems gamers are facing on last-gen consoles. We will be informing you about the contents of each patch ahead of their release. They won't make the game on last-gen look like it's running on a high-end or a high-spec PC or next-gen console, but it'll be closer to that experience than it is now. Finally, we would always like everyone who buys our games to be satisfied with their purchase. We would appreciate it if you would give us a chance, but if you are not pleased with the game on your console and don't want to wait for updates, you can opt to refund your copy. For copies purchased digitally, please use the refund system of PSN or Xbox respectively. For box versions, please first try to get a refund at the store where you bought the game. Should this not be possible, please contact us and we will do our best to help you. Starting from today, you can contact us for a week up until December 21st. So first of all, right away in that first paragraph, they admit that they should have shown how the game was running on the base PS4 and base Xbox One, because right now there are more base PlayStation 4s, whether it's just the OG one or the PS4 Slim, than there are PlayStation 4 Pro or Xbox One X systems combined. That's just the majority of the market there. And remember, they were designing for the PS4 and the Xbox One this whole time up until they just delayed their way into next gen. And remember, if you buy the game, it says PS4 and Xbox One at the top. It doesn't say PS5 at the top. We are using the PS4 version on our PlayStation 5. The PS5, of course, just is much more powerful with its better CPU and all of this, so it's able to run the game better, but it is still at a lower resolution. No, for the PS4 and the Xbox One to be in the state that they are, CD Projekt Red made a conscious decision not to show people how it actually was, how it would run on their system. Which means, yes, they deceived everyone. Yeah, like knowingly. I mean, if you look at it, the pre-orders were pretty high. They probably thought to themselves, well, all right, we have like 8 million pre-orders. If we just don't show this, we put it out there and we say you can get refunds, or maybe we can patch it in time. Really looking at it, it's going to be a while before it's fixed. I mean, they say they're going to have multiple large patches coming up. February appears to be when the PS4 and the Xbox One base will at least be playable, usable. Like, we're looking at terrible frame rates on this thing, blurry visuals. In fact, we're to the point now where people are coming up with ways to fix it themselves, and one way to increase frame rate, apparently, by 10% on the Xbox One is to literally fire your gun into the air while you are in the crowd so that all the NPCs will run away and it's a bit easier for the system to render the game. That's where we are right now. Also, it appears that OpenCritic had to put a disclaimer on the review. Check this out. It says, please note, this game has significant disparities in performance, player experience, and review scores between the PC, next-gen consoles, Xbox One, and PS4 versions. The OpenCritic team and several critics suspect that the developer, CD Projekt Red, intentionally sought to hide the true state of the game on Xbox One and PS4 with requirements such as only allowing pre-rendered game footage in reviews and not issuing review copies for PS4 and Xbox One versions. This notice will be taken down in February 2021. And then to go a little further than that, we even have some retailers, for example, this one in Brazil, that put a warning on the Cyberpunk 2077 boxes saying bad performance and bugs on Xbox Fat and Xbox One S. And then on top of that, we have several different Twitter threads showcasing that Sony is refusing refunds in some cases for Cyberpunk 2077. Some of this has to do with overall playtime, because I know there are requirements where it's like, if you bought it, it doesn't work, and you've put like less than an hour in or something like that, you can get a refund. But if you've played it for like 3 or 4 hours, you won't be able to get a refund. It's certainly case-by-case basis with this. And really, it just comes down to the game wasn't ready to release. Despite them developing this game throughout the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4's life. And remember, the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and the S weren't even thought of when they started conceptualizing and even going into full-scale development for this game after Witcher 3 had released. They weren't thinking about the PS5 or the Series X then, and all of a sudden they delayed their way into next generation, so that's how you should be playing it, and the PS4 and the Xbox One version don't matter anymore? Nah, that's not gonna fly with most gamers. Rightfully so, by the way. So if you bought it on the Xbox One or the PS4 and you're playing on those base models and you are not enjoying it, I would get a refund immediately, because who's to say that these patches will even fix the game? And even so, you have to wait until February for a game that you bought now? I don't know. That doesn't look good for CD Projekt Red, and the problem is a lot of people have believed in and trusted CD Projekt Red this whole time, where they'd make fun of companies that would put microtransactions in their game, but oh wait, our multiplayer, oh yeah, that's gonna have microtransactions in it. Oh, and now this game launches broken. Yeah, it makes me wonder though how this would have gone down if this was EA in this situation rather than CD Projekt Red, who again had this mystique around them, right? It's a shame to see, and hopefully anyone who is not happy with their purchase is able to get their money back. Go ahead and email them. I'm sure they're getting flooded as it is, but if anything, that might at least be able to get your money back, and then you can wait. Or I guess if you have a PS4 copy or an Xbox One copy now, and you know you're getting a Series X or a PS5 for Christmas, hold out for a couple weeks, you pop it in there, and at least you'll be able to play it there through backwards compatibility at a much more acceptable frame rate, resolution, and all of this. Next up, let's talk about Nintendo and Indie World, as later on today, there will be an Indie World presentation that'll be about 15 minutes. We can go over to the tweet here that says, ring in the holidays with a new Indie World showcase on Tuesday, December 15th at 9 a.m. Pacific, that'll be noon Eastern. Tune in for roughly 15 minutes of updates and new announcements on indie games coming to Nintendo Switch from our global partners. Now, the big game that people are hoping will be here is Silksong. And we say that every time there's an indie games presentation, even thinking, okay, maybe it's been upgraded to like a full Nintendo Direct kind of thing, because it would be a big announcement to get at least a release window, like summer 2021, something like that, right? That would be awesome to see that. But there are some other games, like I think two big ones that would be cool to at least have announced would be something like Among Us. That'd be kind of cool to see that show up on the Switch. That would be a good one to have as just like it's available now, like a stealth drop, because there probably will be at least 1 or 2 stealth drops here that are just available immediately when the show is over. And then the other one would be Fall Guys. I know they have like a timed exclusivity deal with Sony, but if they announce Fall Guys for 2021, that would get people pretty excited and ready to go for that game. I mean, it's Mario Party basically with online elements, so it would do really well on the Switch. We also could see Sports Story have a release window revealed, again, sometime in 2021, as it was delayed out of 2020. I could also see Disco Elysium get a bit of a spotlight, as it was announced at the Game Awards, but it wasn't talked about as much kind of on the stream for the Switch. Maybe they want to put their own a little spotlight here for it. And what I would like to see, because I think it would be one of those kind of shocking moments for indie games, would be seeing Tunic get announced here as a game for the Switch as well as the Xbox. Microsoft hasn't been shy about letting some of their games go to the Switch. And if you look at this game, it's not out yet. I think it's made by one person. And that's the only thing that might hold that back a bit, because they're just trying to get the game done, and now we're throwing the Switch in to port to. But it's a game that looks like it would do really, really well on the Switch, and I would love to see it get some more attention, because it's been kind of under the radar a bit. But looking forward to Indie World, because it's usually out of left field for half of the announcements, games we kind of discover through this stream. So here's hoping it's a good one. Next up, let's talk about Google Stadia, as it has benefited heavily from Cyberpunk 2077. But first, let's talk a little bit about a new service that is going to the platform. You can see this here. This is from The Verge. Ubisoft's game subscription service now supports Google Stadia for free. Ubisoft Plus offers all of the publisher's games for $14.99 a month. So Google Stadia is basically going to work in here where it is a way to deliver the games to you without you needing like a game console as an example, to play it, or PC, any of that. You'll be able to use a terrible laptop or your phone or anything there, which is a good idea for what Stadia should be, which is more of a utility rather than an outright platform. But Ubisoft is like enamored with Google Stadia and game streaming, because they want to remove the idea of having a barrier of a game console or a high-end PC from playing their games. All these publishers like the idea of game streaming, they just need it to actually catch on and function. So it makes sense why Ubisoft would push to have this attached to their service. Amazon Luna also can take advantage of Ubisoft Plus. But what's interesting here is it appears that there have been an influx of new users for Google Stadia, so much so that it actually kind of went down the other day for several hours, as it seemed like it got hit with so much traffic. In fact, you can see this trends chart here that shows it jumping up big time when Cyberpunk 2077 released. I mean, what was happening before was Google Stadia was giving away like a Chromecast and a controller alongside of buying Cyberpunk, so that was one way for Google to kind of lean into it. But now, if you think about it, the PS4 and the Xbox One base system for Cyberpunk is not a good way to play it. And we're starting to see Google Stadia do correct marketing, where they point out that that's how you should be playing it if you don't have a PS5 or Series X or a high-end machine. You don't have to go out and get one of those, and it's kind of hard to do it anyway. You could just sign into your browser, buy Cyberpunk, and start playing right now. And so far, it's worked. All they needed was just a game to come out that was super hyped up over an entire generation and was broken for the majority of people who had PS4 and Xbox One when it came out. I mean, a lot of things had to happen. The stars had to align here for Stadia, but I don't know. Does that really just show how bad the situation is around Cyberpunk 2077 that Stadia looks like an appealing way to play the game? And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as we're seeing here. This is from Jamon saying, imagine all the devs who thought they were going to be able to stop crunching after the game came out. Yeah, you're right about that, because several large patches to fix this game, which is pretty buggy right now, a lot of glitches, crashes, everything. It's gonna take a lot of work. And yeah, there's probably gonna be quite a bit of crunching, I'm sure, just to fix the game that they crunched in the first place to get done, despite it being in development for like 7 or 8 years. Yeah, it's unfortunate because if you think about it, the executives are the one that failed, that messed this whole thing up, but it's gonna be the developers who feel most of the blowback, because if they look online, all they're seeing right now are people telling them how bad their game is that they developed, but they were just doing what they were told from the higher-ups, right? And we hear about all of this money coming in, and there had to be a stipulation even removed so that the developers could get a bonus for all of the work they put in. Yeah, it's not great all the way around, because now, like you say, the developers, they're gonna be crunching for quite a while, because even after those 2 patches, we gotta start talking about the next generation patches. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Whether see Projekt Red and their statement around Cyberpunk 2077, seemingly just admitting that they knew the game was gonna be broken on the Xbox One base and the PlayStation 4 base, but they had to go along with it anyway. What do you think about that? And then what do you think about Stadia all of a sudden becoming popular to play Cyberpunk on? Did you pick it up on Stadia after you saw all the poor reviews and talk about the PS4 and the Xbox One version? Oh, and what do you think is going to be at Indie World? Go ahead and leave your predictions down below. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.